Just for you, I'm messing with an anamorphic lens today. Not really just for you. I'm working with it because I'm getting ready to do a project and I'm going to be using just two anamorphic lenses, a Sirui 35mm f1.8, 1.33 squeeze factor, and a Sirui 75mm f1.8 as well. I'm going to shoot the whole thing on those two lenses, so I'm kind of practicing and working things out. And I wanted to stop and make a YouTube video today because, well, first of all, let me just say that, get this out of the way. I'm also using the Panasonic S5, and I'm shooting at f8 because I wanted you to have an idea of how beautiful it is where I am. And what I love most about anamorphic lenses is working with foreground and background, and working with depth of field. I think that's what makes it really special. I mean, obviously, you get those lens flares at night and stuff like that, or when you're dealing with light. I like that, but that's kind of a byproduct for me. That's not a big deal. I also like the wide point of view. And I love the way these lenses look, actually. These Sirui lenses are very comparable to my Minolta vintage lenses. Like, they don't look like modern, well, they're anamorphic lenses, so there's a lot of distortion and kind of, they're not perfect lenses. They're not perfectly sharp. So personally, I love that for filmmaking. I'm not a still photographer, but even with still photography, I like that kind of gritty kind of look, So anyway, I'm making a YouTube video with an anamorphic lens today, which is kind of fun and cool. I would say the camera is probably 10 feet away from me right now. So 35mm, it's a 52mm equivalent, but with anamorphic, it's more like the equivalent of about a 37, I think it is, in terms of how wide it is. And the height, I lose a little bit of height because I am not shooting in anamorphic mode, because, the Panasonic S5 allows me to go into anamorphic mode, which would put me in a 4:3 shooting scheme with the sensor. But I'm just using Cinema 4K. I like the way it looks better once I get it into my software. It just looks more anamorphic to me, or more cinematic, or whatever. So really what I wanted to talk about today was that I finally finished shooting my movie that I've been working on for almost 2 years now. And I finally got the last shot. I thought I had wrapped a week ago, but I realized that I needed one more shot. And so I went out to Red Hook, Brooklyn, and I got the final shot. And it was actually quite emotional for me, to be honest with you. I think because it was the final shot of a 17-year project. This is the third and final part of a trilogy that I've been working on. It's been 17 years. I first wrote my play, Broke Wide Open, the first part of the trilogy, 17 years ago. It started as an album, became a performance piece, and then it became a play. And it was 6 years of my life, and I wound up performing that play all over the world. It wound up running off Broadway for a while. I was fortunate enough to do 8 shows a week for almost 5-6 months. And it was an unbelievable experience, hard for me to even put into words. And then I did another play after that that was not a part of this trilogy, called Brooklyn Quartet. And this trilogy is probably the most important work for me to do as an artist, because it's a memoir type of project. It's about my life, my fostering, my adoption, my relationships. It's a memoir type of piece. I know a lot of people think it's an adoption project, but it's really just my life, like it didn't occur to me that I was making an adoption project, but I guess in a way I did. But anyway, in between I did Brooklyn Quartet, which was probably the most important work to me that I've ever done, and what I feel is the most contributing work that I've ever done, because it's about the things that preoccupy me, which are racism and white supremacy and injustice, And so I tried to create a beautiful story and beautiful characters to, I don't want to say raise awareness, because that sounds so cliche, but just to write about, racism, gentrification, white supremacy, all the bad things, misogyny, loyalty, friendship. It was really a love story. And I think it worked. I did that for 5 years. Then I got back and I wrote another play called The Red Plaid Suitcase, which was the second part of my trilogy. The Broke Wide Open was about my very ambivalent search for my biological mother. And The Red Plaid Suitcase was written because I actually was connected to, I got connected to my biological mother's family after taking a DNA test. And I learned a lot about her. It was just mind-blowing to learn about her life. She had been through some stuff that was like, I mean, crazy, crazy. So anyway, I wrote a play called The Red Plaid Suitcase. It was supposed to open at the Signature Theater on June 12th of 2020, and obviously got canceled. It was a pandemic. And so I decided to make a movie out of the same story. And I made a movie all by myself during the pandemic, shot on my cell phone, an LG V40. And that got me into filmmaking. It actually changed my whole life. It changed the trajectory of my life, my art. It just added so much. And it became an award-winning film, I'm grateful to say. And it started just as a project to keep me from being really depressed because I was so kind of broken. Oh, here comes a train, so it's going to sound terrible in a minute. But I wanted to do something because I was really depressed. And you know what? Let me rest for a sec. Well, nah, you'll be able to hear it. I'll just scream while the train's going by. Anyway, I wanted to do a project that would get me through that period of being depressed, and also it was the pandemic. I'm gonna wait for a second, I'll edit this out. So let this train pass, and I'm not even gonna show you the train. Using a Zoom H1N, by the way, and a purple Panda lavalier mic to record this audio. So anyway, geez, that train was forever, man. So yeah, that was the second part of my trilogy, was The Red Plaid Suitcase, and that became a movie called The Center of Distance because of the pandemic. And it became an award-winning film, like I said, which was pretty amazing. And it changed my life, seriously. Like, I just became obsessed with, you know, this like extension of my ability to express myself creatively through a new art form for me, which was filmmaking. And it kind of took me away from theater in a sense. I mean, I'm still going to work in the theater, but I mean, that's all I did for 15 years of my life. Like, I was on stage. I performed over 350 days a year for like 10 straight years. So anyway, that was part 2 of the trilogy, My Biological Mother, The Center of Distance. And it just got licensed at Amazon, I'm proud to say, so little selfless plug. It'll be live in a couple of months. And so now I'm at the third part of my trilogy, the final part, the end of this 17-year project. And it's a story of my biological father, which nobody really knows anything about him. No, I mean, my words are twisted because I get a little emotional talking about this, not because of my biological father, but because it's the end of this long journey, and it's a metaphorical death of a lot of stuff. And the film itself is called This Is the End for Me, and it's actually about suicide. And just as a side note, I found out that adoptees are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than anybody else. And the woman who told me that died a couple of years ago, and she committed suicide. So anyway, I lost quite a few people during the pandemic and even before the pandemic to taking their own lives. And I decided to write this final part of the trilogy, which was, like I said, the end of my journey of searching for my identity and my mother and my father and all this kind of stuff, and who am I and what am I and where do I come from. Like, I've been doing it for so long. I really wanted this to be the end, you know, like I don't want to write about this anymore. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I want to move on to other things, more things like Brooklyn Quartet. I'm working on a documentary this year. I want to focus more on that kind of work too. I mean, I'm still going to do narratives, but I'm not going to write about my biological beginnings anymore. So anyway, it's pretty amazing that I got to the end of this project. I shot this film all by myself again. So these are all solo projects. You know, I'm a solo theater artist. I'm also kind of a solo filmmaker. And, you know, I know people sometimes tell you that they did something all by themselves and on no budget, but I really did something. I did all of this work all by myself with no budget. You know, like nobody else helped me to shoot. The advantage this time was I shot this movie with the Panasonic S5. And I used my Minolta 28mm f2.8, my Minolta 50mm f1.4. They're both vintage lenses, all manual. And by the way, the reason I didn't show you the train is because this lens is all manual and I didn't feel like turning it around and getting my focus together. You know, I got this shot together. I had to get the focus and the aperture and everything together manually, so I didn't want to mess with it. So I'll get some other B-roll and stuff after I'm done talking to you, but anyway, this project has been incredible for me. I did it with the Panasonic S5. I used those two lenses for 80% of it. I did use a Sigma 28-70 f2.8 zoom lens for maybe 10 to 20% of this film, because I did find myself in certain scenarios where I wasn't sure what focal length I was going to need, and I knew that I was going to have to really capture the stuff quickly because I put myself in a couple of positions where I was in places where I wasn't supposed to be, and I knew that I was kind of stealing the shot, you know what I mean, like real run and gun stuff. And so I wanted a zoom lens that had capable autofocus. Even though I don't use autofocus like other people, I use autofocus sometimes just to capture the focus. So while I'm in manual focus, I can grab the focus, I can, you know, move my little square on the screen to what I want to focus on, capture it, but then I'm still in manual focus, so I'll never have that crazy pulsing, which drives me out of my mind. I hate that. So anyway, I'm a manual focus person. Excuse me. So I say all that to say I finished shooting. Now I'm going into the final editing process. Then I get to give it to my friend Steve Peckman, who was like, he is a Coltrane level musician, but also a great, great composer. And he scored The Center of Distance. He's going to score this film as well. I'm also going to have Lily and Barbara and Nell involved with this film, which I'm very honored by. Both great musicians as well. And so I'm ready to get this edit going. Like I said, I've done everything on my own, so I've shot it on my own, I've edited on my own, and that's why I made this video. And this last part of the video will be quick because I don't want to get all drawn out and crazy about this, but I just wanted to say, if you have a story that you are absolutely compelled to tell, that you feel you need to share, that this is your contribution to the world, that it ain't all about you, it's about all of us, that it's something meaningful and something profound and something that you think can raise our collective empathy, do that project, because we need it more than ever before. And do not make any excuses about you don't have the equipment, you don't have the people, you don't have anybody's help, you don't have anything, you got enough. I shot a feature-length film that became an award-winning film on my LG V40 cell phone, literally. I spent money on a ND filter for the phone, a little clip. I bought a tripod, which I'm using right now. It's a Victiv 72-inch, $40 tripod. It's garbage, but it's amazing. Like, it's lasted through so much for me. I actually love this tripod, but it's really light. It's easily broken, but I haven't broken it. I've been really careful with it, even though I've beaten the shit out of it too. But, you know, I had my phone, an ND filter. I had this. I bought a cheap Hohem iSteadyX gimbal, which I used a little bit, and that was it. You know, oh, and I used the Zoom H1N for sound, a purple Panda lavalier mic. I spent less than $200 on everything because I bought the LG V40 on eBay for 160 bucks. And so I don't use it as a phone, I just use it as my camera because I didn't own a camera. I've never owned a camera before in my life until after I finished shooting The Center of Distance. I bought a Sony A6400. I used that for a while until I upgraded to the Panasonic S5 because I knew that I wanted a full frame camera for this project because I knew I was going to shoot a lot at night. And for that, I wanted a full frame camera. I also wanted the stabilization that this camera has, which is so much better than the A6400, which has zero stabilization. So, but don't get me wrong, it's a great camera. So, you know, the Sony is an amazing camera. And, you know, I'm not somebody who really uses autofocus, so this camera for me is like having a high-level cinema camera. It's like I have an Arri Alexa. The image quality on this is incredible. And so I'm just saying, you can do it, you know? Like, it's all about the desire to do it. You know, like, anybody can have a great idea. And anybody can even start, you know, an endeavor upon a project, but not anybody can finish. Finishing is the thing. And so I really encourage you to just use whatever you have. And you know what? If you do have a little bit of money, I have no reason to say this because trust me, Panasonic has no idea who I am. But I noticed that this camera, the Panasonic S5, and I'm talking about the original one, is now like $800 on MPB or eBay. Like, you can get a like new in the original box Panasonic S5 for between $800 and $900, definitely under $1,000, which is crazy. And that's because the Panasonic S5 Mark II came out, and the Mark II X, and it has, you know, phase detect autofocus, and that's what everybody wants. So you can get this camera for like $850, $900, and trust me when I tell you, you will be getting a remarkable camera. And then, you know what? Get some vintage lenses. Like, you can get the lenses that I have, they're very much like a Helios lens. Like, they have tons of character, they're all manual, no autofocus, no, you know, like everything is disconnected from the electronics of the camera. But they're amazing. And you can get those for between $75 and $300 at the most. Like, you just have to search, but just get any lenses for the L mount for this camera, and it's gonna look good. You know, you don't need uber sharp, you know, unless you're working for Nike or, you know, making commercials or doing something for Netflix or whatever. You know, you're not working with a client at the beginning who is demanding this uber sharp stuff. And, you know, if you're a wedding photographer or whatever, then yeah, you know what? Spend the $700 and get a Sigma 28-70 or buy one of the Panasonic native lenses. They're not expensive in the grand scheme of things if you compare it to Sony and stuff like that. So if you have a budget of, say, $2,000, you can have a very professional setup with an interchangeable lens camera. Whether you get this Panasonic S5 or a Sony FX30 or, you know, a Fuji XH2S or whatever, you know, you can have a great, you know, kit to work on a film. But also, you could just do it on your phone. You know, just download Filmic Pro or get an LG phone used, and it has all the manual settings. So as long as you learn how to use your white balance and your aperture and, you know, your ISO settings and everything. Yo, I mean, I learned more in 3 years working with my phone than I learned in my entire life combined. YouTube University, following people like Danny Gewirtz and, you know, Brandon Lee and Gerald Undone, all the guys, you know, all the guys and all the women, all the amazing, generous, spirited filmmakers who leave all this information for free on YouTube. You can learn so much. Now, there's a lot of bullshit out there too, and you're going to have to sift through it, but there's mostly incredibly meaningful, really smart information up there that's going to make you a filmmaker, because all you got to do is shoot every day. But so I'm just saying, I hope that this inspires you. You know, if you want to see my film, you know, I'm not trying to plug it, but if you want to see it, just look for, you know, just search Rock Wilk, The Center of Distance. It's still up at YouTube right now. I'm going to pull it down pretty soon because once it goes live at Amazon, I have to take it down. But if you want to see it for free now, go check it out. The Center of Distance, Rock Wilk. I'm telling you, I shot it with my phone. I'm the only actor in the film. It's like a love letter to the Bronx. I'm very proud of it. So check it out. But again, if you're feeling compelled, if you feel necessary that you get the story out of your body, if you want to be a filmmaker, you can do it. Don't wait. Don't make any excuses. Don't negotiate with yourself. Work as hard as you can. That's the only thing that's necessary. Commit to it. Dedication, desire, commitment. You know, take care of your body. You know, like, make sure that your nutrition is intact, exercise, you know, keep your focus together. Take it seriously. Be professional. You know, be real with it. Respect the craft, you know. If you're not a bullshitter, you'll do well, you know, as long as you really attend to your work with integrity. So anyway, These bugs are driving me crazy. I'm going to end this now, but I just wanted to celebrate finishing shooting the film, onto the editing process. I'm shooting for a screening sometime in the late spring or something like that, but we'll see what happens. You know, it's going to take a long time to get the music together, and then I got to get all the color grading and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really excited about it. You know, I'm very proud of it, and it's definitely a level up from the center of distance. So, as far as the cinematography is concerned. So, how'd you like the anamorphic lens? It's a 35 millimeter. I'll get some B-roll around here, and also I get some shots just in my apartment, just to show you the, you know, playing around with depth of field is really fun. It looks beautiful and it looks really dramatic, just shooting little stupid things around where you live. It's just crazy how you can make it look. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I guess that's it. You know, onward we go to the next one. Have a beautiful day. Stay well. Take care of one another. I don't know how to say goodbye, so I'm just going to say goodbye. All right, that's it. That's it.